doing life.
The reasons why it won't work are probably lighting up like one Christmas tree.
Yeah. Leading with emotions is only going to get you terrible deals. Some people are selling deals that would not even make sense for a giraffe. Like
that little bit of hard work is going to be the difference between you being 10 grand up or 10 grand down.
Welcome to the Property Project podcast, where we talk all things property, but also help you to resolve some of the dilemmas that you come up with.
But before you do that, we'd love if you could help us by liking the video, subscribing to our channel so you could get more content from us. Yes, so we're back again with another dilemma. So I'm new in the rent-to-rent space and I've been struggling to find my own deals. This has been for many reasons, but partly because I'm time poor and not able to consistently put what I've learned into practice. I've signed a contract with a sourcer and I've paid them $3,000 to find me a deal. It's been over 4 months now, no deal, and I've asked for my money back so I can use it on another deal elsewhere. However, I didn't realize in the contract that I'm essentially stuck with this sourcer until they find me a deal. What should I do?
You are doing life. If you haven't watched that film, you don't know, yeah? You're doing life. What I mean by that is you are stuck in that contract forever and ever, and there's no setting you free.
You can't let them down nicely. Like
You are doing life in that contract. Let me tell you that. That's period. Sorry to hear that. That's probably where I should have started. But essentially, you are kind of stuck, and the only ways you're going to get out of it is if you think about getting a solicitor who can read through the contract to find the loopholes, or if you are, not that you need to be intelligent enough, but that's the only way I can put it. If you're smart enough to kind of go through the loopholes to see if there's any that would allow you to come out of the contract. The biggest lesson for you here will be about the fact that you didn't read the contract, and now you're screwed. Because if in the contract, usually with deal sources, it sounds like you've joined a bespoke type agreement or arrangement with the sourcer. If you've already paid them up front.
Someone's made you a bespoke client.
Yeah, which basically means that they're dealing sourcing specifically for you, and you've certified that by paying them beforehand. But essentially it sounds like you're stuck in that because you've not checked that the contract allows you to leave if they don't get you a deal in a certain amount of months. Usually what it will say is, if they can't find you a deal in 4 to 6 months or something like that, usually it's about 3 or 4 months, but the worst case scenario would be 6 months.
I think normally it's about, I think normally it's 3 months.
3 months,
6 months to not find someone a deal. If they are bespoke, then I think that is a bit wild.
Yeah.
I think 3 months should be the
fair amount, yeah.
But again, this is why the importance of reading your contract.
Yeah.
You can't just sign. There's been so many situations, and again, not to go off topic, but there have been so many situations where people have just signed just because they're excited to get the process going to what they initially want. But you have to look at the fine print. Do you know what I mean? You have to look at circumstantial situations like where, if this happens, how does it affect me? How does it affect you?
Yeah.
So again, even one little hack that I kind of use as well, because sometimes I know when it comes to contracts, they use a lot of big words, a lot of jargon, and it's just like sometimes they don't even know what they say something in one sentence that in a whole paragraph that they could just say in one sentence. So what I always do is when I get a contract, I read clause by clause and I just put it in ChatGPT and say, listen, explain this to me in layman's terms, so make it as easy as possible. Like literally contracts for dummies, if anything. And it will explain to me exactly what that means. So therefore, I'm able to understand, okay, clause 1.8 II or whatever says that if you haven't found me a property within 3 months, then I am entitled to ask for my money back or whatever the contract says. Do you know what I mean? So again, that's an easy way to kind of be able to go through and actually find out what goes on in your contract. And then also ask ChatGPT, is there anything else that I need to find out about this contract to make sure it's airtight and is fair on both sides? And it will give you suggestions. Then it's down to you to do your due diligence and find out or make sure these things are in place.
Yeah. Basically, there's no other way to put it other than, you are a bit screwed. And the only thing that I would do in this situation is either personally try to find the loopholes for myself, or if I feel like I'm struggling to do that, get a solicitor who would be able to help me with the loopholes, or threaten that I'm going to get a solicitor if I don't get a refund in the next let's say 30 days.
Yeah. I'll
or
say like
14 days.
Yeah, exactly. I was even just gonna say like in terms of loopholes, the type of loopholes that you can look for, maybe finding out if they're part of the redress scheme. So they should be part of a redress scheme, especially if they're a legit sourcer. So you can actually use them as a mediation service. Finding out what their anti-money laundering license is, because if they haven't got that, you might be able to threaten them and be like, listen, let me out of the contract, or I'm going to tell HMRC that you ain't got no license. Yeah, I'm just saying, it's fair game. It's fair game. Just be like, listen, you don't need to do all that. Just cut the contract. You know what I mean? What else do they have? I think that's the main two, to be fair.
Yeah.
Just finding out how legit they are as a business. Obviously, if they're fully legit and they gave you the contract and then you're just stuck in it. And I'm so sorry, but you better just hope that they find you a deal.
Yeah. Sorry about that. I wish there was more that we could help with that, but it looks like you're gonna have to wait for them to bring you that deal, because it's actually not even funny. Sorry. But you're going to have to wait for them to bring you that deal, because otherwise...
Or speak to a solicitor. A solicitor will find ways to be able to cut that contract.
It's probably not that deep of a contract. Yeah, it's not that deep of a contract, I'm sure. But I would say, like you said, just getting a solicitor who will be able to help. Which brings us on to avoiding mistakes. What mistakes that you can avoid in order to not lose £10,000 or more?
The first one, I think you mentioned it before. I can't remember if it was this one or one of the previous episodes, but getting emotionally attached to deals.
Yeah.
Getting emotionally attached to deals, because when you're emotionally attached to deals, your heart will tell you that you know you can make money off it, and it will tell you all the reasons why it can work, even though the reasons why it won't work are probably lighting up like one Christmas tree.
Yeah.
So that will then put you in a situation, and it's not until those situations, those situations become a reality, that you then start to realize, okay, maybe I should have listened to my brain rather than my heart and left this deal alone.
Yeah.
I think that's one of them.
Yeah.
What's another thing that you would say?
Just to add on to that as well, a story. I'm nervous to say it, because obviously you guys know that Sean hates me telling people's stories. But anyway, the fact is, we've got someone we're working with, right? And they got a deal that was their first ever deal, and because it was their first ever deal and they were like desperate to get a deal, because we all know that feeling when you're trying to secure your first rent to rent, like you almost go for anything just to say that you've done it, right? And this person did go for anything, and funnily enough, I don't think they actually know this, but the deal that they went for, we actually went on a viewing for and shut that down, because the landlord was trying to coach us. Like we left that viewing saying he must think we're dumb, he must think we're stupid. And no offense, but he managed to get someone who he could coach into taking on not one but two of his properties in the same place, all because that person was desperate to sign off a deal. Now, that person isn't wrong in doing that. We work with them, but at the same time, they're now reaping the bad repercussions of this deal because they led with emotion. And when I was speaking to them about it, they were saying that the reason they went for it is because, it was the first deal they'd been trying and they weren't getting anywhere after being 6 months in the game with no deal. And then they came across this, and the landlord was like, yes, the company lets. They didn't have to do much negotiation or sales or, put their best foot forward. Like, it was already set in stone. And we know this is true because when we went there, he had already said, yep, I deal with companies, not a problem. Like, it was what he was charging. He was charging, it was ridiculous amount. Ridiculous. And the fact is, what made it difficult is we already had some on that island already. So it was... I thought you were going to tell me off.
No.
We already had
You're clear for now.
We already had some properties in that particular area, so we knew what the rental market was. So him charging that, I thought, do you think we're dumb or something?
Yeah. And I think what was even worse as well was the fact that not only was he trying to give us that, but that was a 2-bedroom. He then tried to give us the 4-bedroom.
That was across the road.
And when we asked, at first we was like, okay, so there's a potential for a 2-for-1 here. But then he said what the rent was, and it was crazy. And even when we spoke to him and we said, well, that doesn't really make sense, because if you're charging that for a 4-bedroom, we can't make
Yeah.
We can't make the margins aren't there for that. And I think we even kind of not straight away like kind of gave him a comparable as to why you know it doesn't work, but we kind of just made him think about it. But he was just like, well, you know what, that's what I'm doing it for. Obviously, I'm sure someone else will take it.
Literally was right. And that's what's wrong with the property space, guys. Learn to stick to the numbers. Stop saying yes to things because you make everybody else look bad. Stick to the numbers and don't think about the emotion. But yes,
and to be fair as well, I'll even just say, like, obviously Cindy's 100%, even 200% right in that. It is something that does happen though, because we did it ourselves, but we quickly learn.
With what deal?
The first ever one, the guy that was using us to get a supported living or CPC.
Oh yeah, but we never went with it.
No. But we did lose money. I'm not gonna like really and truly, if things kind of worked out, we probably would have tried to go for it.
Oh, I thought you were talking about the land guy, the guy. That
Oh no.
Yeah,
I'm talking about the first one.
Yeah, but that
we
wasn't
didn't
necessarily
lose.
to do with rent though. I'm talking about not agreeing rent. That was to do with a saucer. That was a saucer that we paid money to.
Yeah.
Because we had led with emotion, 100%.
Yeah.
But I'm talking about the rental market. Please stop saying yes and
Okay,
adding zeros just to get a yes from a landlord, because first of all, it doesn't even look professional, which means they know that now you set a tone that you will do anything they ask for. And so don't say yes to rent just because you want that deal. Say yes to the rent because it makes sense. We had a 5-bed amazing property in Streatham, and the landlord came back to us as being advertised at something like, let's make up numbers, like 4,000. And then the landlord came back to us and was like, oh, would you do it for 5,000? I said, how did you get there?
Explain.
I actually said, please explain to me, like, because they texted to me asking me, oh, you know, like, would you consider this amount considering the risk to us? So I said, oh, this is worth a call because I'd love to understand a little bit more. And when I called them, I said, you've asked for this rent. I'd be really intrigued to understand how you got to that number.
Yeah.
And when it came down to it, they couldn't explain it. So like, don't just say yes to rent because you've led by emotion. I can understand everything else in business where it's like you lead with emotion and end up losing money. But I feel like the rental space, because we're also messing it up for genuine renters, for single families, we're messing it up for them. So it's like, please, only go for the value that you believe is doable for the business. Stop saying yes just because you want a property. Because it's given hungry and desperate, and that's not what we need to be given. You need to be given professional and good decision making.
Because I was even going to say as well, like even just before we move on to the next thing, that after we had our first few units in this place, right, there was a hike in prices. Yeah, we got our prices at a very good rate, which was fine.
3 bedrooms for like 1450.
Yeah,
in like Reading, like it's wild.
2 bedrooms,
1500. Yeah,
and it's like then there was such a hike where we're now seeing 2 bedrooms going for like 1900, 2 grand, 2-1, and we're thinking to ourselves like, this is all because one, you got new companies that are coming in and just saying yes.
Yeah, but the penthouse is, I'm sorry, the 1500 one is higher than the 3 bedroom because of the type of property it is. It's a penthouse, by the way, just so that makes sense. But but for a penthouse in that area, a top floor flat, it was a very, very good price.
100%. And I just think to myself, like, when we started to see the hikes and these were deals that are being sourced and then sold to people, I'm just thinking to myself, I can't see how any money's being made on
We've got a 4-bed and somebody else has got a 4-bed, and their 4-bed is £350 more expensive than our 4-bed, and we got it at this like a similar time. No, they even got it before us.
Yeah.
So and way before us, actually, probably like 6 months before or something before us. So it's like crazy. Like, we will never take on properties to this date now anymore, like that's higher than what we can achieve ourselves for our business just because we want a deal. Like, I don't want it that bad that I'm going to be struggling in my business. It's never that deep. But anyway, that's definitely something to consider, is leading with emotions. It's only going to get you terrible deals. I promise you that. The next thing is being able to buy off sources with no credibility. A lot of people are doing that now. And no one's actually talking about how like terrible the space of sourcing has become. We've got an investor who works with us.
I think like it's
always been that way. There's no regulation.
There's a lot more out there who are sourcing for the wrong reasons.
And it's because of how it's sold as a business. Like,
Yeah.
just find deals for investors and sell them. Just find them. Just
Yeah.
find them and sell them. Like, no, mate, it's not just find and sell. It's not ever just find and sell. Do you know what I mean? Like, there's more to it than just find and sell.
Yeah.
It's got to make sense for the investor. Stop just finding and selling deals. Like, don't get me wrong. We do sell deals that we wouldn't want to take on ourselves because the capital doesn't make sense. But we know that it would make sense for somebody else. For example, we've got an amazing 8 block here that we know would make sense for first-time investors who have low capital. We're not first-time investors with low capital, so it wouldn't make sense for us. But it would make sense for someone else. Some people are selling deals that would not even make sense for a giraffe. Like, it doesn't actually, like, I don't get why you'd be selling that.
Yeah.
And so a lot of people are making money because they think it's just as simple as find a deal and sell it to an investor.
Yeah.
It's not that simple, and it shouldn't be that simple, because the person that you're working for in terms of sourcing deals should be someone you are invested in. I know that we call the investor, but you should be equally as invested as the investor.
Yeah. Listen, again, one of our mentees, or 2 of our mentees actually went through a deal sourcer, not like unintentionally went through a deal sourcer and found a deal. And when they came back to us and asked us about, about this situation, we just advised them, like, listen, ask the sourcer this certain questions just to find out their position on the deal, their interest in the property, and their legitimacy. When they came back and I asked them to find out, whether they're registered to a redress scheme, what their anti-money laundering license is, what their sourcing fee is, what their interest is, and all that stuff. When the person came back, and one of the answers that the sourcer gave to the mentees, right, was, I don't do the numbers.
Because last time it got me in trouble.
Yeah. And I just thought,
how can you source a deal and not do numbers for someone? What are you sourcing? What are you sourcing? Air, like, I don't understand. You're just showing up on the properties now. You're an estate agent.
My main need for you,
you're an estate agent. What is that?
Is for you to do the numbers.
You have to do the numbers. That's the whole point, because a lot of the time the people who are sourcing from you, buying your source deals, are people who don't necessarily know how to do the numbers. They are technically relying on you. And, it might be an unpopular opinion, but that is really how it goes. If you are able to know numbers, you are likely to source yourself, because you know the numbers that you need to achieve. Yeah. And a lot of the time that does not include a sourcing fee.
Yeah.
So if people are coming to you to source and or to source their deals, you've got to understand that they don't know the numbers. And if you're sourcing to them and saying, I'm not going to do the numbers for you, you are taking big advantage. Big advantage. 100%. Because the 3,000 is for a seamless beginning to end support of getting your first deal or second deal or third deal, wherever deal you're on. It should be seamless. That person is working for you over a short period of time to get you the deal of your dreams. That's essentially what it is. And if that person decides and turns around and says tomorrow, you've paid me £3,000, but I'm not going to give you the numbers, mate, you should knock them out.
Yeah.
And then send them over here.
And also as well, this is one thing that I feel like a lot of people in this space need to remember. If there's one thing that you hear from us and that you take in from us, from this podcast episode, from this whole thing, is that when you are paying a sourcer, right, you are paying a sourcer for that deal to be done. All that it needs is for you to say yes to the deal. None of this paying £3,000 and then they still got to go and do negotiations, or they're paying this £3,000 and it's still not guaranteed to be yours, right? There's so many people out here that pay that and then contracts aren't even signed, or they haven't even,
like the dilemma.
They haven't even sorted out things between the sourcer and the landlord. Do you know what I mean? So again, if you're paying £3,000 and there's still legwork for you that you need to do in order to get that deal over the line, it's classified as a lead. Yeah. And a lead,
it's not a package deal.
It's not a package deal. The maximum you should be paying for a lead is £500. Literally that.
Wow, okay, fair.
So £500 for a lead. If I tell you that, I've got someone that's interested in renting with a company, I haven't sewed it up. I haven't tied together that package. I haven't tied together that deal. So I'm giving you a lead. If I tell you, if you want those details, I can give it to you.
Yeah, we had that before, remember?
Yeah.
And we had a lot of pushback of like, oh no, we're not going to give it to you for less. I mean, we never end up going with it. And this is why we don't really... it's just long. It's just long. It's like, especially sources these days, I'm really struggling to find good sources. I'm not going to lie, because that's happened to us where it's like we showed up at a viewing and they were like, oh, we're still considering, we're not quite sure, like, what's the benefits of us going with a company? And we were like, sorry, what?
Sorry?
We've come here because we thought this about, why are you speaking to us? And we literally had to do a lot of the legwork. Like, it ended up that you had the number of the landlord because the people sourcing to us didn't have like they didn't
hand it over properly.
And don't get me wrong, like deals fall through. I'm not saying like you could go to a landlord today and then they say yes, and then tomorrow they've still got to advertise and then they get a better offer and it falls through. That's not the fault of the sourcer. But what I'm saying is when you don't do the legwork, where it gets to the stage where you're like close to contracts, close to closing, that to me is like you're not really sourcing. Then you're just, I don't know what you're doing. I don't know what that's classified as. But yeah, be very, very careful of that because that can also make you lose a lot of money. Finding a sourcer who is not credible, go through word of mouth, go through, social media pages, go through their contracts, go through how many deals they've sourced, speak to people they've sourced to. All of that is so important to knowing who you should be going for and how to find a credible
business info as well.
For sure.
Aren't signed up to redress schemes.
For sure.
Anti-money laundering license. They don't have that. They don't have certain things in place that they should do as a sourcer, and they're just getting away with murder, I feel. But yeah.
The next place that you can lose a lot of money, and this is over £10,000 because we've paid over £10,000 for our mentorships, is mentorships. And people don't realise the scam out there of some mentorships. And they're really, really, really hard to find. I feel like we have a lot of, I know that there's a particular person that always speaks to me. I mean, there's many who talk to me about not knowing what mentorships to go for because they just hear left, right and centre everywhere's a scam. And to the point where it cripples them because they're then not able to move to the next step within their who do you trust? And then they steer away from it. And it genuinely is really, really, really hard to find the right mentorship. Like we could tell you, oh yes, we mentor, which we do. But at the end of the day, it's about you being able to find a trusting relationship that you can build with the mentorship program or the people delivering the mentorship. It is hard to find that. And really and truly, no matter what I tell you or what we tell you today about finding the right mentorship, it's still not going to be as easy as just telling you what you need to do. Because I could say, speak to people on the course. I could say, speak to the mentorship provider or the person delivering the mentorship. I could say, check the Google reviews. There's so much you could say, but the fact is you won't know until you know. Like our experience of one of our mentorships was a little bit, it wasn't great. But now for this new age of people who are going into that specific mentorship, I don't know if they've made the mentorship better, but like everyone that I've spoken to who's newly joined this mentorship is loving it. And I even feel bad saying, well, that wasn't even my experience, or was I in a different experience? Because it seems like everybody else is loving it. At the time that we were in it, a lot of people could not stand that mentorship. And a lot of people were coming out of it being like, we did not get mentored properly. But now the new group of people going into that are absolutely loving it. Like, I don't think I've heard the last time someone say they've not enjoyed that mentorship program. So it really depends on you as a person. It depends on your type of learning. It depends on what you're trying to achieve from mentorship. But what I would say is try to invest in a mentorship program that gives you everything that you have been looking for in terms of your non-negotiables. So we had somebody on a call with us the other day, and their non-negotiables was like a mentor who is available over the weekends, a mentor who can help them deal...
Even a Sunday?
That's a very good question. I don't know. They said weekends.
Fair enough.
But so somebody who's going to be able to deal analyze for them, somebody who's going to be able to talk them through because they're a very, very anxious person. It was someone who was able to clearly detail what it was that they needed from a mentorship program. And I really admired that because I think when we went into our mentorship program, we actually didn't know what we wanted from a mentor. We knew we wanted to be successful in the business. We didn't know what we wanted from a mentor. We weren't able to say that. And I think a part of us not enjoying that mentorship program was because we weren't clear on what we needed from the mentor at the start. And I think that it's really helpful to write down your non-negotiables of what you need from a mentorship program, and that will help to align you a lot better. But a lot of people are losing money these days. Like we've heard of that, people being exposed and that recent situation of people paying £4,000. People paying £4,000 for a mentorship program that they feel they didn't get much out of. And it's like everyone has to, it's not about price, it's about what you get out of it with that price. So make sure that you are clear for yourself what you need. Make sure you write down what it is that you want from a mentorship program, and then align that way, because people are losing mass amounts of money from mentorship programs because they're not happy. So make sure that you're taking that into account as well. And then the final one is also joint venture partnerships, and investing money in deals, because that's definitely one that's happened to us before, where we've invested in deals and not got money back.
Yeah, just it's about understanding the person you're about to go into business with. Having a great couple meetings doesn't mean anything really on the like it's surface level stuff.
Yeah.
You know, you can have great meetings with someone that you feel like you really like because you got on with them a couple times, but in order to really know people, you need to know how they operate in certain scenarios, different scenarios. What are you like when you're stressed? What are you like when you're up against it? What are you like when you're losing money and things aren't going your way? What are you like when you are making a lot of money? What are you like when things are going very well? Are you going to switch up at any time? Like, what are you, you know, one thing that I do kind of think about as well, and someone did mention it as well today on a video I was listening to, but one guy said that he knows that he's more likely to trust someone that has been in a long-term relationship in business than someone who's just out here just willy-nilly single or whatever. And I hear it like obviously that's obviously each to everyone's own, but I do hear it to a certain extent. You want to find out from how that person lives their life, how they conduct certain relationships in their own life. Because if you don't take relationships in your own life very seriously, what makes you think you're going to take this relationship or this?
And funnily enough, that was the situation for us. It's 100%. Like exactly similar. It's like the personal relationships were not being taken seriously. And then, you know, it's not just about getting on with someone. Like, we laughed, we bantered, we had a great time. And a part of me still grieves that connection we made with these people, because it's like, bruh, they were actually fun people. Like, it was nice to meet people in a similar space. Like, let's be real, we weren't meeting people who were like us in that space, and it was nice to meet people like them. But they showed us time and time again that they couldn't be taken seriously because they couldn't even take themselves seriously, if that makes sense. So it's like, it really is about looking at someone more than just getting along. Like, what are their values? How are they at work? You know, ask them about their 9 to 5. If they're late to their 9 to 5 every day, you know they've got a problem. If they don't show up to work every day, you know they've got a problem. If they got, like, no offense, but if they got kids and they don't see them, unless there's a valid reason, even those things you've got to consider. Because if you cannot even commit to the basic level of family, what makes you think that they can connect with you and have loyalties with you? And it all comes down to that. And people don't actually speak about that enough, but this is how you lose money. If you are a joint venture partner who has the funds, please know who you're getting into business with. Please don't just have a conversation. Like, even our mentees, like, we have a mentorship program that they're linked in with joint venture partners. But I think equally on the other side, the ones who are, you know, bringing in the money, I feel like they should be questioning our mentees, because if they're not able to show a level of consistency, a level of check-ins, like a level of, hey, how you doing this week? Just to update you that although we haven't secured any properties, I'm still on the hunt and I've managed to call 100 estate agents this week. If you're not getting them kind of updates before you drop money in their account, don't even bother. Don't even bother. Because it means they're not serious. It's not the right time. They're too busy. Whatever their reason is, it's just not for you. So make sure that you find someone whose head's in the game. Make sure you find somebody who maybe already has properties, but also an experience. But, you know, sometimes that's not the case. I mean, we've had people invest in us, and I guess we were, you know, we had a couple properties, but we were still fairly new. But they could just see our work ethic because of our social media page at the time. We were way more consistent then. We've like died down a little bit and we need to get back. But we will get back. But again, they could see that just from consistency of like social media. So those are things that are really important for people to think about in this space. And I just think that if you want to avoid losing large sums of money, you need to be doing your due diligence around each of these things. It's hard work doing due diligence sometimes, because you don't want to, it's about going over certain things that you've seen before. And sometimes it can be boring, but
that little bit of hard work is going to be the difference between you being 10 grand up or 10 grand down. Do you know what I mean? And when you think of it like that, you would rather just put in that extra bit of work,
For sure.
extra bit of due diligence to just be like, you know what? Let me find out a little bit of extra information about this person before I invest my money in.
Yeah. And I think the main thing for me, the biggest one that will make you lose money is the one that we said at the start, leading with emotion.
Yeah,
like, please, again, like Sean said, if there's nothing else that you take, it's like this one especially, because it will get you in a lot of trouble. Like, I still can't get over that we're working with an investor who's not made any money back from these properties, or because there's a 6-month break clause. I mean, a 6-month exit clause.
Exit clause, yeah.
Who puts in a 6-month exit clause? Like, literally, the max you should ever go with an exit clause is 2 months. 6 months is wild. When you're not making money.
Year,
when you're not making money. Think about that. Half the year, you're already not making money. You've already had 6 months of not making money, and you have to wait 6 months again to not make money to come out of that contract.
Yeah.
That is wild.
Which means that if you even wanted, again, normally you have the 6-month break clause, right? Which allows you, or 12-month break clause, whatever. But let's say if it's a 6-month break clause, if you're not making any money, or you realize that you're not making any money by month 3, month 4, you would have had to have put that notice in from when you started in order to come out of that contract.
Yeah.
That is wild.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So just please, like, if anything, make sure that if you're not sure whether you're leading with emotion, give that deal to somebody else to have a look at. Speak to somebody else about it who's in the property world. Speak to someone who's 10 steps ahead of you already, and get the reassurance that deal, that offer that you've got, that opportunity you've got is worth going for, and that you're not leading with emotion, because you will lose thousands of pounds, like we did with the story that Sean said about us going through a saucer and losing £1,000 because we led with emotion. We were so excited. We were like, oh my gosh, let's go do this. And it bit us in the bum. So
yeah. We got off lightly. So
we did.
We got off lightly.
Very lightly in comparison to other people.
Another time it could have been a couple grand.
Exactly. Could have been 10,000. So these are things that you need to do to avoid losing £10,000 worth of money. You do these things, you'll be safe. You don't listen, it's on you, and good luck. And as I don't know if you come from a Caribbean household or maybe even African household, you might have heard, if you don't hear, you must feel. Gosh, okay. So just feel it. Just think about that. Just think about that. If you ain't heard that one before, you've heard it now. So yeah. Cool. Thank you for watching to the end, guys. We really appreciate it. As a little thank you gift to you, we would like to give you an invite to join our free WhatsApp community where we drop a lot of gems. If you're still watching, then thank you so much. But more importantly, if you could like and subscribe to this channel to help us bring you more content that we know you'll just love.